Hey everybody, it's Missy,
and April,
and this is SheelaNaGig. Hey everybody, welcome.
Welcome.
It's nighttime with SheelaNaGig.
It is.
It's almost April's bedtime.
It is.
Yeah.
So if I start fading and I'm not contributing, you know I'm asleep.
No, no, it's only like 8 o'clock, April.
Yeah, I know.
What time is your bedtime?
I start fading by 9, and by 10 I'm out cold.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, this is quite a Sheela, and I will say, everybody knows the drill. Of course, each week we present and explore our own SheelaNaGig, a woman whose strength, perseverance. It could be somebody you've heard of. It could be somebody you
Or somebody you haven't heard of, but should.
And it's interesting to think. Sometimes I have to think about like what are our prerequisites for a Sheela, and that can be. Well, that can be complicated. Sometimes it's obvious.
Sometimes we argue about whether or not somebody is a Sheela.
Yeah. I think you'll agree this is definitely a Sheela.
Oh, okay.
But she just has a very, I don't want to use the word interesting. Complicated is a better word. She has a complicated story. But I'm really excited to share her because this is somebody who is very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but did you ever read the Lonely Doll books as a child?
We've talked about that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Did you read them?
I didn't read them, but you showed me one of yours and explained the genre to me.
Yeah. Well, I collect them. I have a collection of Lonely Doll books by Wright. Mm-hmm. Wright was the author, and from the time I discovered her as a child, I was just obsessed with it. And I remember I'd go to the public library every week with my sister Margie, I called her then, and she would always go and books, and we would always buy a new Lonely Doll book.
How many were there? Was it over 8? Wow. Yeah.
10, yeah, and then she wrote other books as well. I pretty much like anything that she wrote, but because they were just so fanciful and magical and near and dear to my heart, and just from the time that I saw her work, I loved her. I loved her immediately. And I love the little doll Edith, and I love the bears. I just. And again, my sister's 7 years older than me. And so when I was, say 6, she was 13, or 7, she was 14. We were picking things out. And the series basically features a forlorn doll named Edith, who lives all alone in a house. And you don't know why she's alone in this house, but she's praying for company, and one day these 2 stuffed bears show up and befriend her. The mischievous little bear and the stern but loving Mr. Bear. And the Lonely Doll brought Wright widespread acclaim as both an author and creative photographer.
That's right. The images or they weren't illustrations, they were photography.
They're actual black and white photos. Mm-hmm. Stunning black and white photos, I might add. And her book quickly made the New York Times list of best-selling children's books of all time. And Dare went on to write and photograph 9 more books in the Lonely Doll series, so 10 in all. And then she wrote other titles as well. And she was just a one-of-a-kind artist, photographer. She was a gifted storyteller, author, and she combined her work to create photo, story, children's books. She was also a model and an actress, and she lived a very, again, I'm going to say complicated, unconventional life. Mm. She was the second born child of her parents back in 1914. She was born in Toronto, Canada, to Ivan Leonard Wright and Edith Stevenson Wright, who they called Edie. And as a teenager, her mother, Edie, was actually forced into the role of the family breadwinner after her father had an untimely and gruesome death in an accident. Oh. Edie was a talented artist, but she really had to prioritize for her family. Mm-hmm. And again, she was kind of the breadwinner after her dad died. So she always had this dream of studying in Europe and being, a famous artist, but it just kind of never worked out for her. Instead, she was supporting her family, her very ungrateful mother, supposedly, and she was painting commissioned portraits of rich people whose standard of living was far above anything their family could have ever afforded. So she also, I think, felt resentful.
I would imagine.
Yeah. But then she met Dare's dad, and she fell in love with Ivan Wright, and she married him with the understanding that he would assume the burden of supporting her in the style that she felt she deserved.
Uh-huh.
At this point, she felt like she had really earned a good life.
Yeah.
And that was kind of her desire to have a good life and be taken care of. So both of her parents were leanings. Her dad was actually a failed actor and ultimately became a theater critic. And Edith, her mother, was an artist, and in particular a portrait artist. And their first child was a son named Blaine, and the family shuttled back and forth between Toronto and New York. They kind of had like family, and she was painting portraits, in New York to very prestigious people. So they were kind of going back and forth. And apparently, Ivan was an absentee husband, and he went through many jobs.
Uh-oh.
And he was also an alcoholic.
Doesn't sound like a great breadwinner.
No. So, she had wanted to marry somebody that would support her and help her.
Take care of her, yeah.
But again, she ultimately just kind of became the breadwinner and had to support them and became very resentful over it. Again, she was seeking those portrait commissions from, wealthy patrons in New York, Toronto, and in Ohio as well, where I believe she was originally from, just to keep her family afloat.
Oh.
So, and she was constantly working.
Wow.
So it was no surprise that their marriage was pretty strained from the beginning. And after the children were born, it just began to disintegrate even more. And by 1917, the pair had divorced, with Ivan taking custody of 5-year-old Blaine, the brother.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and Edith keeping 3-year-old Dare. Although Edie had divorced Ivan, she told Dare that they'd been abandoned.
Oh.
That was the message she always told her, that they had been abandoned.
And did the father see Dare, or
no? That was the last time when he left.
I guess that wasn't such a stretch.
Well, he died shortly thereafter.
Oh, wow.
So
then what happened to the brother?
Well, he remarried. He remarried shortly after, and so Edie was furious the fact that he remarried. Mm-hmm. How could he do that?
Oh, so the stepmother kept the brother.
Yeah, and apparently she was a good mom.
Uh-huh.
Like apparently she was a better mom than probably his own mom. Yeah. And Edie had also taken Dare because she was very well behaved. She was a very compliant child, kind of like you, April. You always say compared to your sister, you were the compliant one.
I was very compliant.
Yeah. When the children were young, she would bring them to her relative's house, and they always complained about Blaine because he was acting out. He had a lot of antics. So,
oh, boy.
Exactly. It's so sad. Like, I'm going to take the well-behaved child. It's like, Yeah, again, she was pissed off, though, so she was like, no, I don't ever want to talk to you again. You may not talk to my daughter. You may not talk to me. I never want to see you again. And again, I'm not sure how he died, but he died shortly thereafter, marrying this woman, but it was kind of a blessing because she did raise Blaine as her own and was actually a really good mom. So that he got that. Dare grew up, though, she always missed her dad and her brother. And she remembered, she was 3, but she remembered them. And since they had left, though, when she was so young, and her mother refused to really talk about them, she started to become unsure growing up whether they'd even been real or if she had imagined them.
Oh, wow. So we're starting to see foreshadowing of her book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So she was raised, of course, an only child, by a divorced single parent, a mother, long before that kind of family unit ever existed.
Yeah.
So her mom was very embarrassed, and her mom would tell people that she was a widow. Mm-hmm. After the divorce, Edie took young Dare, and they settled in Cleveland. And from the beginning, Edie treated Dare almost like a pet, ever present, ever subservient, and filled with a desperate need to be a perfect child so her mother wouldn't abandon her in the way that her father and brother had.
Oh, wow. What a burden for a young girl.
I know, it's really sad. And she also said that she lived in a state of constant upheaval because her mom was, bless her mom. She was, she was hustling. She was trying to take these portraits. She's a single mom, in a time when women were very much looked down upon and not respected. And
respected and right.
So as Dare explained it, she felt like she was living in a constant state of upheaval and that her caregivers were constantly changing. And so were her surroundings. So, as Edie developed into a more sought-after portrait painter, she began receiving commissions for lawyers and judges and politicians, and she just worked consistently as a painter throughout Wright's childhood, and that's really how they got through those times. And she worked a lot, and she would leave Dare home alone as a little girl with instructions to keep the door locked and not let anybody. And she'd be gone for hours on end.
Okay, so the doll books are really coming into focus in a big way.
Yeah, so she was all alone.
And what was the name of the doll?
Edith.
Edie, yeah.
Named after her mother.
Right.
We're getting to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it said before she had caregivers, when she was very young, but then as she got to be a little bit older, she was just alone all the time. And Edie also dissuaded Dare to be friends.
Oh.
And instead, she kind of played the role of being Dare's friend. So when they were together, they would play dress up together and have tea parties together and take pictures of each other. And so, they would put on these gowns, these elaborate gowns and outfits. So her mom tried to fill that role a little bit as her playmate almost.
But what was her aversion or disapproval of her having friends?
I don't think she wanted anything to compete with her love.
Oh.
I think that she just wanted, she wanted Dare all to herself, is what I think, which you will kind of see as we go on. And it's during this time that Wright's perhaps unusually close relationship with her mom began to really take hold. She, again, was almost in complete isolation from ages 6 to 9, and encouraging an understanding of their own private universe, was populated by a lot of make-believe that the mom was perpetuating. And the mom was also extremely distrustful of all men and fearful that her rich customers would learn the embarrassing circumstances, of course, her divorce. She didn't want
people getting too close.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't want people to find out. According to writer Jean Nathan, who wrote The Secret Life of the Lonely Doll, The Search for Dare Wright, Edie instilled in Dare the means to explore her own creativity. She taught her not only to read and write, but also to draw, to paint, to do carpentry, and to sew. Edie's view of the world as the canvas for her composition extended to their physical selves and to their surroundings. Sadly for Wright, it would come to pass that her mother saw her as her own type of blank canvas to single-handedly shape and mold.
Oh dear, that sounds scary.
A little bit. There was a writer from the Cleveland News. Her name was Maud Truesdale, and she ended up publishing a series on Cleveland's pioneering women during this period. So, of course, she wanted to interview Edie because she was this, very well-known portrait photographer. She wrote an article, and she described Edie's apartment as, quote, unlike a studio as could be well imagined. She also included a description of the artist's daughter, a little girl with a white cloth around her head, which her mother had pinned a cross cut from red paper, was playing Red Cross nurse to some decrepit dolls. Truesdale also pointed out that Dare missed years of schooling and had no contact with other children.
Oh my goodness.
Saying that this child should be in school. Wow. So the resulting newspaper story so enraged Edie that she immediately signed a lease for an actual studio space in the Fine Arts Building in downtown Cleveland, where she remained for a good deal of her life. She immediately enrolled her daughter in the 4th grade at the private Laurel School for Girls in Shaker Heights, which is a very wealthy suburb of Cleveland.
Yeah, Ohio.
And it was also a dormitory school. So strangely enough, she was sending her away for the first time.
Yeah, to a boarding school. Wow.
Yeah, which I found a little surprising. I found that part a little bit surprising. But she also really wanted to make sure that no one could ever describe her daughter's dolls as decrepit ever again. So she bought Dare a very expensive Italian-made 22-inch tall Lenci doll on installment for $12.50 from the Hale Brothers department store. And in fact, it was the very most expensive doll in the entire store.
Wow. This is so fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yes. I'm intrigued.
Okay, thank you for saying that. I was pretty fascinated. I've been fascinated for a long time, so I'm just glad I can finally get it all out and down. But Dare named that doll Edith.
Edith.
Right. Because all little girls naturally name their dolls after their mother.
Of course. Sure.
Do they?
I've never named a doll Rosalind.
Nor have I never named a doll Mary Jean. I don't know. Maybe it was the times.
Maybe. Or maybe they were so enmeshed.
Yeah, probably more so
Dare
now.
didn't know where Edith ended and Dare began.
This is a good point, yes. But as most little girls with increasing age, Dare became preoccupied with other activities and eventually packed Edith into a trunk. And by the way, this is a little side note, which I think is really funny, but Edie was described as looking and acting a lot like Endora, the mother of Samantha on Bewitched.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that
Yeah, that
hilarious?
is hilarious.
And I can picture that, as soon as, and I've seen pictures of her too, and it's just like, it seems very fitting. But again, over time, Dare's mother, Edie, became more and more successful. She started painting a lot of dignitaries and also celebrities like Dwight Eisenhower and Greta Garbo.
Woo.
And she also began drinking more.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she wasn't complicated enough yet.
No, exactly. That reminds me to take a little drink of my evening sip.
Our evening, yeah, for recording in the evening, we definitely have a little cocktail.
Yeah, I'm having a little mezcal. But missing her mother while boarding at the Laurel School, Wright turned to the only way she knew how to comfort herself, through her imagination. And according to Jean Nathan, before long, Wright's artistic expression began to evolve into joining the school drama club.
Ooh.
And there was a woman, her name was Jane Douglas Crawford. She was the head of the club and the teacher of spoken English. And she really took a shine, to young Dare. And she took her under her wing. And she believed that there was a budding young actress beneath the surface of that girl's introversion, because she was quite quiet and introverted.
I was surprised when you said acting, only because she seemed very quiet.
Yeah, exactly. But when Wright told her mother about her newfound love for acting, nurtured and encouraged by a newfound mentor, Edie's reaction was predictable.
Predictably jealous.
According to Nathan, from the very start, she detested this woman.
Of course.
Who sought control over her daughter.
Oh, dear.
Edie had already cast Dare in the only role she wanted her to play, that of her mother's good and previous model daughter. But when Edie failed to provide much guidance for her daughter following high school graduation, and by the way, she did graduate top in her class, it was Crawford again who stepped back in to convince her to attend drama school. Edie harbored resentment and bitterness for those college degrees, since she had managed to become a successful working artist without a degree.
Okay, so
yeah, of course she doesn't.
A little bit more enmeshed and competitive with daughter.
Yeah. So, nonetheless, though, Wright left Cleveland for New York City in October of 1933, where she would attend the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And it was kind of a compromise with her mother. She agreed to study both acting and drama, as well as art.
Okay.
Because her mom really saw her as an artist. And she was almost 19 at this point. She was a stunning beauty. If you look at pictures of her, very stunning. And, conversations would pause and heads would turn when she entered a room. All eyes were on her. But she was kind of oblivious. And she would just kind of walk quietly into a party. But a lot of people just think because she was so beautiful that she was really a natural for show business. But again, she was just never really comfortable performing in public. So 1 term and 6 months later, she dropped out.
Oh.
Yeah. And she also, when she was in New York, she knew that she had heard that her brother was in New York.
Oh, okay.
So she decided to start searching for her brother. So she was while she was there, that was her other mission. Of course, she didn't tell her mother this, but she was trying to find her brother, and it was fruitless. She couldn't find him at all.
Oh.
So she felt really discouraged, and she went home to Cleveland by train, and she was too ashamed to actually tell her mother. So I'm not quite sure how this worked out, but she ended up returning to New York shortly thereafter and not ever telling her mother that she came home. So I don't know if she stayed in a hotel or she just took the train there and turned around. It wasn't really clear, but her mom never knew that she came back. And she basically took the train out there and just said, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try again. So she decided, okay, maybe I just need to reapply myself. She didn't achieve any star status, but she did start to experience some success during this time. She played a maid in a Broadway version of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice in the summer of 1935. And the theater company actually ended up doing a tour, and they did 4 performances in Cleveland. And Edie was absolutely delighted because she immediately appointed herself her daughter's publicist and agent, as if she wasn't already, completely involved. And she started passing out risque photos of Wright to her local press contracts.
That seems odd.
That's weird too. She had been taking weird photos
Of her daughter.
Of her daughter. She was quite young. Yeah.
Wow.
And again, it was like, Dare was almost oblivious, you know? And so, yeah, but she thought that it would, like, you know, help get her some more work. So she was passing up these risque photos she had taken of her daughter. And everyone thought she was a little crazy.
Out there.
Yeah. But unable to secure any other stable acting work after the Broadway stint, Wright admitted defeat and she finally returned to Cleveland. But Edie had already set her sights on Hollywood.
Oh.
Yeah. And it wasn't long before the mother-daughter duo packed up. They moved to Los Angeles and they lived there for a year between 1937 and 1938. And I think, you know, in Edie's mind, she had all these connections because she had painted all these portraits.
Yeah.
And so she believed she had a studio connection with Sam Katz. And he was a big movie theater magnate. And she had painted his picture, actually, his portrait in 1931. And he now worked for MGM. So she thought for sure that she could go and you know, talk to Sam Katz and, you know, show off her daughter and give some risque photos of her, and that he would immediately be, you know, taken with her. But he was actually quite preoccupied working with Louis B. Mayer, trying to cast Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz at that time to make any time to take on Wright as a client or even meet with them. So
that did not materialize.
That did not materialize, no. And, you know, while Edie did have some sympathy for Dare's disappointment at her unfulfilled acting career, the stage had never really been part of the vision for her daughter. Like I said, she saw her more as an artist. But her big concern was that, you know, her negligible income. So she suggested that when they left California and Dare returned to New York, that Dare register with a modeling agency to bring money between those acting jobs. And it seemed like a reasonable suggestion, and it actually served her well. Because again, she was
a beauty.
Strikingly beautiful. And that same shyness that prevented her from performing in public, and it actually ended up really working well for her modeling career because it created kind of this allure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and kind of this coolness.
Yeah.
And so the shy, timid performer, you know, she just found steady work in New York as a model because she had this like unique appeal, this allure. And according to Jean Nathan, she flittered through life like some kind of spirit. She was carefree and wild. Her unconscious seductiveness and naivete drew people toward her. Her vulnerability was evident for all to see, but also her biggest strength.
I could see that, where that would be very alluring. Yeah.
So around the same time, and this is 1941 at this point, Dare was finally able to track down her brother, Blaine. And she tracked him down, I think, through an uncle. And the two of them agreed to meet in New York Central Park for the very first time since they were separated as children at the ages of 2 and 5. And they were now 26 and 29.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No, that's pretty mind-blowing.
And they immediately just loved each other. They immediately clicked. And they realized right away that they had the same sense of humor. They both had this kind of this dry wit. And they had a similar kind of clipped cadence when they spoke. And they unconsciously mirrored each other's gestures and even their facial expressions. So they realized they were very much alike. And Dare was eager to reintroduce her brother to their mother. But Blaine never understood nor forgave his mother's abandonment of him. And Edie, of course, felt very threatened by the closeness of the two, and she strongly discouraged the relationship.
Of course she did.
Yeah, it's so sad.
From her blood child.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it sad?
Yes.
So, like Dare, Blaine had been traumatized by their parents' divorce. But unlike Dare, he blamed Edie for the family dysfunction and also constantly, though unsuccessfully, tried to steer Dare away from her influence. Dare, however, remained resolutely attached to both her mother and to her brother to the point where she was seen as others as acting more like a lover to both of them than a daughter and a sister. Yeah.
Well, in a way, it kind of makes sense that if you don't feel secure in these relationships, you hang on to them in a more exaggerated form.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Certainly. Yeah. And I mean, there's something to say, too, for that separation. I mean, I have a friend who reconnected with his birth mother, and they kind of embarked on what seemed kind of inappropriate. You know, initially. They were spending a lot of time together. They were very affectionate with each other, and everybody was kind of like, what is going on? But I think that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, because when you approach somebody that, like, as an adult,
Yeah.
you don't really know how to reconcile those feelings,
I guess.
I think. So I'm not surprised with him. The mom, I don't know. But both Dare and Blaine had difficulty handling relationships, and their closest ties became to each other. And there were a lot of rumors about the two of them because they were together constantly, and they were both beautiful.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were both stunning looking, attractive people. And they would be together, they would be holding hands. They liked to do kind of like baby voices together and like pretend they were kids again. And again, this kind of goes back to, I think, like having to reconcile that relationship that they should have had as children, but then are trying to reconnect and build that relationship as adults.
Right.
Their feelings are just so intense that people didn't really know how to act because they really seemed like they were lovers. There were a lot of rumors about incest. You know, whether those were disproven, but there were a lot of rumors about incest. And their feelings for each other were so intense that they even ended up discussing marriage at one point.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Blaine, though, was the one who realized that it just wasn't right. And he accepted his role as big brother. But Wright would remain obsessed with him for the rest of her life.
Oh, how sad.
He was like the unrequited love.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
She loved him more than probably anybody.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know, it's very sad. But after, rejecting this idea, Blaine then decided it would be good to introduce Dare to his good friend, Philip Sandeman. So she met Philip, and everybody was in love with Dare. She was smart, she was beautiful, she was witty, she was successful. And he was no exception. And the two of them dated, and they were briefly engaged. And although Edie was jealous, there was a part of her too that saw financial gain in him.
Yeah.
Because he had been in the army, I do believe, and he was doing very well for himself. So she supported the match due to his wealthy background. However, the engagement did not work out, and Philip actually died a few years later.
Oh, wow.
After they broke up, which also she took really badly. She had a really hard time getting over that. But after that, she was to remain single and largely virginal for the rest of her life.
Wow.
And accounts of the disillusion of Wright and Sandeman's relationship are equally as divided, with the general consensus being that Sandeman ended things because of Wright's refusal to commit to a sexual relationship.
Oh, interesting.
Which may or may not have been followed by him having affairs. Nathan's research yielded a telegram that Sandeman sent to Blaine alleging he needed to have a normal relationship with a woman. And a biography on Wright's official website claims that Sandeman wrote to her saying she was not a real woman.
Wow.
An accusation that hurt her deeply.
Which I'm sure it did. No.
You're not a real woman.
Ugh.
And I guess she was kind of like a little girl.
Yeah, that sounds like she was very undeveloped in certain ways.
Yeah, she was. And there's several stories that I read about different men falling in love with her, being in love with her, and then as soon as they would go to get intimate or kiss her, she would, jump up and scream. There was just something like she couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
She continued to be a successful model, though, for major fashion magazines, and in 1951, she made the cover of Cosmopolitan. She ended up traveling internationally and also modeling for Esquire and Maidenform. And she didn't really enjoy the modeling, but it was a means to an end for her. Because ultimately, she knew she was a photographer. And her dream was to be a photographer. But she thought if she was consistently in front of cameras and working with people in photography and in the arts, she would eventually have her opportunity to be on the other side of the camera.
Okay.
That was her goal.
That was
the
rationale.
Yes. She converted a closet in her West 58th Street apartment into a darkroom. Do you know where that is? West 58th Street?
West 58th Street. That's Midtown. Yes.
Okay. And in her spare time, she made glamorous self-portraits in gowns and costumes that she would sew.
Wow.
Her painter's eye for artistic composition helped bridge that transition from model to professional photographer, like we talked about. And finally, her fashion photography began to be noticed and published in Good Housekeeping and other national magazines of that period. So she was thrilled. And she secretly took many photographs of herself, too, in her apartment. And like she and her mom had done, you know, she'd put on these elaborate
Their
costumes.
play when
Yeah.
she was young.
And then she would sometimes go to a deserted beach and she would be completely naked and she would just take these alluring naked shots of herself. And it's said that she was just this alluring mystery, you know, and that literally she put people under spells. Like, and they called her an enigma. She seemed almost unreal to people, not a real woman, right? And fairy tales and her dolls had been the focus of her stories her whole life, and she told herself in childhood that when she got to her 20s, she was going to turn that focus onto herself. And these stories were narrated not only with words, but through images by means of her new camera and its self-timer.
Oh, wow.
Very revolutionary for that time.
Yeah.
And the resulting self-portraits in which she tried on not only clothes, but also personas, were the very first steps on the path to explore a self of her own for the first time.
Wow.
And the choice of medium alone represented a break from Edie. And these portraits could be created in privacy, out from under her mother's watchful eye. So in the early 1950s, Edie, though, was like right behind her, wanting to move to New York to be close to her.
Lovely.
So she began to send Dare trunks filled with her childhood belongings, including the doll Edith that Edie had bought for Dare so many years ago. Like Edie Sedgwick to Andy Warhol, little Edith became Dare's blank slate.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
As she was her mother's.
Her mother's, right?
Yeah.
Tables have turned.
They have. So the doll became a primary subject of Dare's photographs. And that following year, Dare began to style her own blonde hair in a high ponytail with short bangs.
To resemble the doll?
Yeah, to resemble the doll.
Oh my goodness.
She even, I don't know how she did this, but she even made her eyes blue, the doll's eyes blue.
Oh, wow.
The two would dress alike.
Wow.
And she replaced her mohair wig, you know, the high ponytail wig or the blonde wig. And she even pierced her ears and put in delicate gold hoops like the ones she wore. She sewed Edith white ruffled cotton underwear, a white eyelet petticoat, and a pink and white gingham dress. And soon Edith came to bear an uncanny resemblance to the photographer herself. Dara also began to stage photographs of Edith.
This is sounding a little creepy.
I knew you were going to use that word.
Okay.
We got to think about, okay, we're going to talk about creepy, but we must come up with a better word than creepy.
Weird? How's weird? Unusual.
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 Weird. Unusual. Odd.
Odd.
I like odd.
Odd. Okay.
I don't want to say creepy. I want to say odd. Because
We'll
you can't say creepy about somebody who is so innocent. Right?
I don't know. It sounds a little creepy, but we'll go with odd.
Okay, odd. Okay, so Wright spent hours with Edith and even held a cocktail party.
Okay, this is getting weird and creepy.
No, stop!
Odd. It's odd.
She held a cocktail party to introduce Edith to all her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she insisted that visitors acknowledge Edith's presence.
Of course.
And an acquaintance suggested that Wright channel her obsession into something creative. Why not write a children's book featuring Edith?
Well, what do you know?
Dare liked the idea, so those wheels began turning.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in 1955, she was hanging out with her brother Blaine, and he was intoxicated quite often, apparently. I guess he was a very gifted writer, but he was kind of like their father had done.
Yeah.
He was an alcoholic, and he was kind of going from job to job, and, you know, he was talented, but he had different writing jobs, but he didn't keep his jobs for long. So the two of them hung out a lot, and I suspect because she was successful, she may have been helping him out a little bit. It doesn't say that anywhere, but who knows?
Sounds like.
And so it was 1955, and he was intoxicated and depressed, and he became outraged to learn that his little sister had never been given a teddy bear as a child. Yeah. And so he railed against his mother in full seriousness for what he considered an unforgivable oversight. He was determined to make it up to his sister. While he was at it, he decided he would also buy a teddy bear for his godson. So the two of them, and actually another friend of theirs too, a girl that he was kind of dating who thought they were very odd together.
Imagine.
Yeah. They went to New York City's once flagship toy store.
FAO Schwarz.
That's
My
right.
favorite.
That's right.
Yep.
Where they encountered a large selection of bears. bears.
You better believe it. Of every size and every color and
Yeah. All together, right?
With clothes, without clothes, with hats, with ribbons, everything you can imagine.
Like corduroy.
Yes.
Okay. So the siblings agreed. They're looking at all these bears and they realized they couldn't possibly separate the bears. It just would be too sad to separate the bears.
They had to buy some.
So they bought all of them.
They bought all of them. So Missy is sitting here and there are these books and I was curious of what the books are. And now I realize these are the books.
I'm going to let you look at some of the books in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
So they realized that the rest of the bears would be lonely. And so, Blaine just directed the saleswoman to pack up the entire lot.
Oh my goodness.
All their Steiff bears. Hundreds of dollars worth of bears. Probably Bears money. I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
Who knows? Who knows, right?
For the bears.
But they had them all taken over to Dare's house. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they I think he got sober and they came to their senses and they decided to return the bears. But she did keep a bear. She kept one bear.
Oh, one bear.
This little mischievous little bear.
Oh.
And then Blaine kept the big bear to give to his godson. So, still pursuing her own personal photography efforts, Wright began photographing her new bear friends with Edith. And she liked to imagine Edith as herself and the little bear as the stand-in for Blaine.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. But if a little bear represented Blaine, then she needed the big bear to represent the other missing male figure in her life. One she never saw again, her father. Mm-hmm. So she tasked Blaine with borrowing the big bear back from his godson.
Take the bear back.
But he had already given the bear to his godson. So anyway, she just wanted to borrow it for, these photo shoots or whatever she was going to do. But instead, Blaine arrived at her door with an FAO Schwarz box and a note reading, "One does not borrow other people's bears."
And I told you.
And then inside was the big bear, Mr. Bear.
They gave him Mr. Bear.
Yeah.
He gave her Mr. Bear.
Yeah. So she had her own Mr. Bear now.
Because she couldn't take it away from a godchild.
Well, she wasn't taking it away. She was borrowing it for a photo shoot.
It doesn't work like that with kids. You just don't say, "Can I borrow your bear?"
One does not borrow other people's bears.
Right.
I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
That
might be the best advice I got all day.
Thank you.
Every day you get like a little piece of advice that you just is so applicable to life.
You don't borrow another child's bear.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good to know. And so the three playthings became the main characters of a children's storybook about the adventures of a lonely doll and her two bear friends, which would go on to be regarded as one of the most important children's books ever produced. And now, April, I'm going to let you look at my book.
Which I've seen before, but of course it has a completely different meaning now that we are going into these story and photography and photographs by Dare Wright. And the cover shows a black and white doll, a blonde doll with a ponytail, sitting reading a book.
She's so beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
And this is an actual like.
So this opening page, it says the name of the book, The Lonely Doll, and the doll is on a windowsill and she's leaning into the ledge with her head in her hand.
She's so sad and lonely.
Like crying and looking sad and lonely. This is so
because she's waiting for like, look, it says to Edie and Blaine. They introduced me to Edith and the bears.
Oh my goodness. And I'm just going to read just a little teeny portion. Once there was a little doll. Her name was Edith. She lived in a nice house and had everything she needed except someone to play with. She was very lonely. It really is a beautiful book.
I'm getting teared up.
This is a beautiful book. And for those of you who have never seen these, I just really encourage you to look this up. It is quite lovely.
Yeah, and these are some of the other books. I love Edith and Little Bear Lend a Hand. It's all in New York City.
Look at that.
It's all shots that are done in the city.
In the city, wow.
Which is beautiful. And this is one that the doll and the kitten, which is done on a farm.
Oh.
They're beautiful.
They're really beautiful books.
But anyway, Dare's both haunting and endearing black and white photographs, as we were just discussing and April was just looking at, illustrated not only Edith's adventures, but also the moments of loneliness, like we just talked about, reflecting the fears and isolation that many of us faced during childhood. And perhaps it is this honesty that has made this book so enduring. The text was simple but sophisticated. Central to the storyline was the reassuring theme that Edith and the bears constituted a family, and no matter how much trouble Edith got into, that bond would never be broken, as it had been in her own life.
Oh, that is so sad.
Yeah. Well, this has been lovely, and April's about to fall asleep now. It's way past her bedtime.
It's way past my bedtime. So we're going to do part 2 on this story. And so stay tuned to learn more about Dear Wright and the Lonely Doll.
Absolutely. I love Dear Wright.
And I love this story about her and her work and her dolls.
We love you guys. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Peace out.
SheelaNaGig, unabashed in your glow.